Hi everyone, this is Samima Khatun. Today I'm going to present my thesis report, research thesis on play-based learning in early childhood education and care setting. So these are the content which I will be covering throughout my presentation. Now, starting with the abstract. As we know, play-based learning is combining play with available educational pedagogies, that is intentional teaching strategies. However, no definitional consensus has been identified yet. Therefore, this has created a conflict in early childhood educators in applying effective implementation of play-based learning in their actual practices. So the research here aims to understand the conceptual knowledge and actual practice of early childhood educators on play-based learning, and additionally, the research will examine the effectiveness of current pedagogical practices applied in play-based learning. Introduction. The research thesis provides detailed information on play-based learning. Later, it will provide more information that play-based learning is not only open-ended environment, providing open-ended environment or resources to the children. It means educators' intentional strategies and active participation of the children in play that focus on their conceptual understanding and holistic development. Research questions. The researchers here focus on two proposed questions, which are: what are the perspectives early childhood educators hold about play-based learning in early childhood education and care sectors? And the other question is: how do early childhood educators incorporate play-based learning into their learning curriculum and teaching practices? Now, the literature review. The researcher here has reviewed 5 current studies which focuses on the topic and the 2 proposed questions. The finding from the above studies suggests that the majority of the teachers did not fully integrate play-based learning in their practices. There might be various challenges identified throughout the research, and some of them were dialectic or teacher structure pedagogical approaches to the curriculum. Philosophical worldview. The researcher has applied constructive worldview in the research, whereas the researchers has focused on sociocultural approach for the theoretical framework and looked upon the real situation of the services, that is perspective of the educators and implementation strategies in play-based learning. Paradigm. The researchers here has used interpretism research for the paradigm, and the research also linked with critical paradigms as it investigates the challenges of embedding play-based learning curriculum and practices. Methodology. And for methodology and approach, the researcher has applied qualitative design methodology and used ethnography as an approach. For triangulation, the researcher has used qualitative observation and semi-structured interview to gather data. For data collection method, the researcher has used qualitative method to observe participant knowledge and practice on play-based learning. For the research tools, the researcher has used naturalistic observation and semi-structured interviews. For sampling, the researchers has undertook 12 participants from a service that follow play-based learning curriculum and practices. The participants had diverse range of knowledge, qualification, and work experience. Variables. Play-based learning falls under the independent variables. However, the purpose of research, such as perspectives, can be varied and diverse based upon educators' socio-cultural framework. Ethical consideration. For ethical consideration, the researcher has followed all the legal act, where she has provided permission form and consent form to the participant, and additionally, she has maintained all the confidentiality, and as required by the participants, she has facilitated the final completed research to the participant. Findings. Findings are presented in 3 different bar diagrams, including the perspective, implementation approach, and challenges faced by the educator in embedding play-based learning in the curriculum and practices. Based upon the semi-structured interview and the naturalistic observation, few challenges has been identified regarding educators' conceptual knowledge and actual practices in play-based learning, which will be discussed later. Discussion and implication. The researchers identify educators have appropriate conceptual knowledge, but in depth, she also identified that the educators are still struggling on how to apply their conceptual knowledge in the real practice. Challenges such as play equipment, limited indoor and outdoor space, and the curriculum lacking clear guidance has created huge gap in embedding appropriate play-based learning in the practice and curriculum. Conclusion. For the conclusion and recommendation, the researcher has focused on the challenges as mentioned above, and later on she has suggested that the educated needs more training and development opportunities to comprehend the rationale of play-based learning curriculum. So this is the acknowledgement. The researcher acknowledged the lecture and the service and the participants who have supported in the learning process. So these are the references. And thank you, everyone.